Dadville. Yeah. Hi, I'm Dave Barnes.
And I'm John McLaughlin.
And welcome to Dadville.
Dadville is a podcast where we talk about life, love, and the pursuit of awesome dadding.
It's funny thoughts and deep talks.
So please, enjoy your time here in Dadville and enjoy this episode with...
Pure Athlete.
Vitamin Water Zero Sugar has great taste, zero BS, and obviously zero sugar. For those with zero room in their calendar, zero patience for slow walkers, those who get 0 hours of sleep on a Saturday night, have zero filter, zero given, and zero interest in grabbing a plain, boring water. Grab a delicious Vitamin Water Zero Sugar today.
All right, everybody. So today, guys, I got to tell you, Brad and Britt, which is feels like two different versions of the same word, probably in Old English. But
we're kind of joined at the when Jeff introduces. It sounds like we're Siamese twins,
or it's like an accent. Brad and
Britt, old guys.
Britt and Brad.
Yeah.
These guys. So I want to tell you, I've been so excited about having y'all on. John and I were laughing this morning as we were preparing. We do about a 6.5 hour preparation time of prayer and fasting, and then reading the show.
Most of it's sleep, but
it is a lot of sleep. But
okay.
John was laughing at me because I've been so excited about this conversation for a long time. I love what you guys are doing, but so everybody else can hear what's going on. So first of all, I'll say this. You guys run Pure Athlete, which is an organization and a podcast, and I'll kind of give a little history about that real quick. Pure Athlete is, I just wrote this from what I know about it, so it may be also what's on y'all's site. It may be coincidentally like y'all's site.
Wikipedia.
Yeah, it's just, yeah. No, Pure Athlete is a branded content platform and podcast that empowers parents, coaches, and the next generation of athletes to navigate the complex culture of youth sports. Pure Athlete connects with some of the sport's most iconic figures and topical experts, tapping into their shared wisdom. Our conversations, not ours, but PA as we call it, create informational and inspirational content that develops competitive and healthy athletes both on and off the field. And to introduce these two guys, not with us today is Jeff Francoeur, who just is always just not loved Dadville, and that's okay. And we hold that lightly against him.
Not
He's
a fan.
Yeah, you have to pay for that. We're free content. Just behind the paywall. Sorry about that, guys.
He's
we'll talk about that after
the paywall. I love that comment so much. Just on the other side of that. So with us is Britt Lee, who's with us, author of Parenting the Pure Athlete, father of D1 athlete, so there's some wisdom there, and co-founder of Pure Athlete, and Brad Williams, athletic director, entrepreneur, and co-founder of Pure Athlete. So guys, I'm going to come in really hot here. First of all, I had to really sort of have some discipline because there's a million things I wanted to pick your guys' brains on, but I thought we would just kind of start here, and again, I'm coming in screaming on this. I just feel like for me, as I have 3 kids, the boys, both of the boys, and my daughter who's been playing softball some, but I have a boy, and they play numerous sports, and I think what has animated my passion and curiosity around this space has been as I've been out and the boys have played travel soccer, and I just kind of see the culture around it. But I would say even more than the culture around it there, it's sort of the culture in Christendom around it, which has really unnerved me to a pretty significant amount. And so one of the first things so I'm showing my hand immediately. And I think too, and I want to be really clear, what I've felt in my own heart around these things, because it'd be one thing to just sort of point at everybody else, but I think so much of my problem has been seeing this thing that's come in me, watching my boys play, or they don't get to start, or, and feeling it in me too, which has been really concerning. But one of the things, so I have a bunch of, and John is going to get in words when I let him because I'm just so excited about this. But the first thing that I wanted to kind of open up with, and again, coming and screaming hot, is, and that's what I wrote, we tend to abandon priorities and commitments as parents, right, that we've already made in so many ways because, quote unquote, our kid is now on a travel team, or quote unquote, she's showing real signs of potential, or whatever. So I guess the first thing I wanted, again, and we're just coming in both studs up on this, but as you guys have navigated the space, you've had athletes on your podcast too. Can you kind of speak to that thing? I think that's one of the first things that disconcerts me so much about the culture. And again, I'm really speaking especially in Christendom because that's where I am. And I think, there's some things that it would immediately rub against what I think a lot of us would call our faith, and how all of a sudden we put this priority in things. So can you kind of speak to what you've seen in that, like your feelings around sort of what happens when parents suddenly, either abandon church attendance or other things in their lives that you would probably argue on paper may be more important than their kids' baseball or, soccer team or whatever, and just kind of what that looks like now and how y'all navigated that?
Yeah, well, first of all, you said a whole lot there.
You're
So
both smiling there. I know. That was like the worst setup for a question ever.
no. So let me react to a couple of things, and then Brad, you can jump in as well. First of all, um, any wisdom that we have, and that's questionable, but any wisdom that we have comes from us doing a lot of things wrong.
Yeah.
All of our kids are finished with the journey. We think we did some things right, but we certainly learned some things the hard way. So we come to this humbly. Our kids, who some of them are involved in this business with us, always threaten to do an expose podcast on what Brad and I did wrong.
Yeah.
So I can just tell you we've been through everything you're going through, and to the question of the first live event that we ever did, we were sitting on stage in front of 1,000 people, and it's time for Q&A. And the first question, Jeff always gets these questions about the Braves and all this fun stuff to talk about. The first question I got was, how do you feel about parents who are skipping church to go to tournaments? And of course, I've done that a few times. And it's a very, when your kids are little, there's some things you say are non-negotiables
Yeah.
as you enter this world of sports. And Jeff is experiencing this right now because when we started with Jeff, his oldest child was like 9. And so there were some non-negotiables, and Brad can tell you about a month ago, Jeff was at a volleyball tournament all weekend, and I said, what happened to church Sunday morning? Well, and and so that's something that we all have to wrestle with, because today's sports culture, if you're all in, if your kid has goals, and when they get to a certain level and a certain bit of commitment, there's no getting around that. You have to wrestle with, what do I do about Sunday? Because every tournament is operating on Sunday as the kids get older. So anyway, I will say for us, and this may, parents have to decide for themselves. But we had to grapple with the fact that these are our priorities, and faith and spiritual development for my kids were the priority. And sports at times looked like the priority, but we did miss church sometimes. We tried to be balanced in not missing. We fortunately had a church that had late afternoon services, sometimes Saturday evening services, and online services. And so, we tried to make sure that we prioritized their faith in different ways on weekends when we couldn't be there on Sunday mornings. That could have been just a compromise, but that's how we tried to keep that in balance, and tried to keep our kids understanding that if we could be at church, it was the priority and we were going to be there. There were times that we had made commitments to these other things and we couldn't, and sometimes we probably overcompromised, and sometimes we probably did it right. Brad, you might have some to add there.
I think the strongest opinions on youth sports parenting comes from the young parents who haven't really gone through it yet, that have all these absolutes and standards that they throw out there real confidently. And then the ones like us who are through it, it's easy to look back and go, oh, you should do this and we should have done that. When you're in the mix of it, it's an absolute mess, and you're compromising all the time, and you're trying to just you're trying to just find that happy place that's healthy at the same time, know that there's a system in place that you're going to have to kind of navigate and try to, there's just so many different emotions, so many different things that are pulling you. And that's where you got to pray for discernment and wisdom through it. But like I said, it's easier before you get into the mess, and it's easier when you're done with the mess. But when you're in the mess, it's tough. And the American sports culture doesn't help any, because it's go, 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 and it's win at all costs in a lot of ways, no matter what age you are.
Yeah. Have y'all seen, like, with your kids, it's so great that your kids are older now. Like, are there conversations around that y'all have now where the kids go, either for good or bad or neither, where they're just like, oh, it's great, and or where they're like, I wonder why we did that, Dad, or like, why didn't we do more of this? Have y'all seen that with them?
Oh gosh, Britt's laughing and I'm laughing. I've got my two boys. They seem to bring up the moments that I'm most embarrassed about or ashamed about than the happy moments, because I think it's out of humor too. Though they'd like to give me a hard time, but I mean, there's some gut punch moments as a dad that we went through, especially with my younger son, and but I did a lot of his issues I didn't recognize early on. I didn't until he was able to articulate what he was struggling with. And after that, I think I was a better parent once he was able to articulate kind of where his struggles were. But the tough part was looking back at the years that I didn't understand some of that struggle. And so, we still talk about it. We talk. I'm very blessed that both my boys, their journeys ended in a positive way. But so Vic, and however you define victory, but man, we still talk about some of the. And it's mostly in humor, but it's tough for me as a dad to hear some of it.
Yeah, I would say, all my kids, I have two older girls who played sports, primarily rec sports. One of them played a little bit of high school tennis, but they were just in sports for fun, and which is fantastic. Mm-hmm. My boys were all in and wanted to play in college and all that kind of stuff. So, and they were the younger ones, so. By the time they were all in, my girls were off doing all kinds of other stuff and so on and so forth. But yeah, they joke with us all the time. The one thing I would say is that, or two things I would say. One is, again, we did a lot of things wrong. The one thing I did right was when I screwed up, I apologized to my kids. And, and there were times when prayerfully I would have to go to them and ask their forgiveness for getting frustrated with the wrong thing or something like that. That doesn't mean that there's never a right time to get frustrated, because I believe there are.
Yeah.
But there are certain times I got let my emotions get away with me, while they were playing or whatever. And I would have to ask for forgiveness about that. And they see a realness and a humility in that, is a life lesson for them. And we talk about all these things quite a bit. Again, as Brad said, sometimes, jokingly and giving me a hard time. But a realness too in what they learned through this journey and what they're learning now, that's going to help them as their parents one day go through this thing as well. The last thing I'll say about that is the only other big thing that I think I did right was always prioritize relationship and use sports, and my kids' love for sports and my love for sports. The times when we traveled and all that, we seized every moment and squeezed every moment of relationship.
Yeah, that's great.
Out of that.
That's great.
And so a lot of parents end up at the end of a journey with a poor relationship with their kids, and when they started. And one of our primary goals was to have a better relationship.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's the Dadville podcast, music careers, or anything else we want to tackle in life, it all starts with the dream. I don't know how many times I have to tell you that, right?
Yep.
Sorry, I'm getting angry.
Okay.
Pretty soon, that dream turns into a focus on taking your skills and ideas and turning them into a business that is real,
And
right?
John, that's when things seem daunting.
Yep.
When your business needs a website, a payment system, a logo, and a way to advertise to new customers, it can feel overwhelming.
Yeah, but that's where Shopify comes in, Dave.
Sweet Shopify.
Okay? And there's a reason so many businesses sell with it, because Shopify makes it incredibly easy to start and run your business and make their dreams happen.
That's right. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S. From household names like Mattel and Gymshark and Dadville to brands just getting started.
Shopify gives you that leg up from day one with hundreds of beautiful, ready-to-go templates to express your brand style, and forget about the code.
Forget about it. I've already forgot about it. Take on all those important tasks in one place, from inventory to payments to analytics and more. Spread your brand's word with built-in marketing and email tools to find and keep new customers.
Turn those dreams into and give them the best shot at success with Shopify.
Sign up for $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Dadville.
Go to shopify.com/Dadville.
Shopify.com/Dadville.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Let me say something real quick.
Okay.
And then you can go back to your song. Featuring thousands of study notes drawn from the best-selling NIV Application Commentary series, the NIV Application Bible helps you understand Scripture and apply it to your modern life. Okay, go ahead and sing.
Well, I was just about to write this lyric. The NIV Application Bible pairs a deeper understanding of the ancient biblical text with contemporary application of the lessons found within it, offering you a new way to understand what the Word of God means for your life today.
Okay, let me ask you a question, Dave. What will I find inside the NIV Application Bible?
John, how about original meaning notes to help you understand the meaning of each passage in its context, application notes to help you integrate teachings of the Bible into your daily life, and questions for growth in each chapter of the Bible that encourage reflection on how to apply Scripture to life?
Love it. Save an additional 10% on any NIV Application Bible and NIV Application Commentary resource by visiting faithgateway.com/NIVAB and using promo code DADVILLE.
That's faithgateway.com/NIVAB and promo code DADVILLE for an extra 10% off. John.
Dave.
John.
Hey.
I don't mean to wake you up, but
no, it's okay.
Is she a hot sleeper?
I mean, look at her. Look. She's just hot no matter what she's doing.
No.
Oh.
I mean, when she's trying to sleep, does her sleep get disrupted because she feels too... Oh, she got up. She's leaving. Sorry,
babe.
That's all right.
All right. Look, Dave, listen, let me say.
Yeah.
As I live and breathe, yes, she does. 100%.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what to do.
Okay.
It's been a problem for a while.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I guess I've just, accepted the reality that she's never going to have a good night's sleep for the rest of her life.
John, wait.
Yeah.
I have a solution. Cooler comfort lies before you with Boll and Branch's percale sheets. They are cool, crisp, and breathable, just like you, John. So you and Amy will never sleep hot again.
Oh, Dave, I believe you. Wow.
Okay.
But I'd feel better if they were made, without any toxins and with the finest 100% organic cotton. Can you give me that?
Just look, here's a 4-leaf clover because you are in luck. Not only that, but they also come with a 30-night worry-free guarantee and a promise that B&B sheets, Boll and Branch, are ethically crafted by expert artisans who make fair wages.
Okay, it's a go.
Yeah.
Okay, feel the difference an extraordinary night's sleep can make with Boll and Branch. Get 15% off plus free shipping on your first set of sheets at bollandbranch.com/dadville.
That's Boll and Branch, BOLLAND, branch.com/dadville to save 15% and unlock free shipping. Exclusions apply. You in that, I think that is a profound thing. I'm so glad you brought that up. In y'all's video I was watching, I thought it was such a beautiful sentiment that y'all said. One of the things that y'all's objective is, and I quote, how to make youth sports a great experience. And I thought that was so poignant and beautiful. And also something else you said, which I thought was so wonderful too, is you want your kids to come out of the youth sports journey with a better relationship with their parents. And I thought, what a unbelievably clarifying goal for a parent as we navigate through youth sports. And I mean, candidly, I think on our worst days, we all go, well, we want our kids to be the best they can be, or be on a winning team, or win the trophy at the end of the season. And what a just clarifying thing to go, well, no, you know what would be great is that, man, I just know my kid better. That on the drive home from the game that night or the practice that we have a great relationship. And so it leads me to another thing I wanted to ask y'all about. And again, something that I think is really, I've already, as you said so well, Brad, I'm in the middle of this. And so clarity is not something that I have the gift of right now. It's just basically I'm in the middle of a, what storm. But I wrote this. I think to your point about having to apologize to our kids these things, I think the other thing that I've noticed that is so profound, and I've felt this in myself, is that we're sort of using our kids to heal our wounds, and that could be we want them to redeem our sports story or to carry on our legacy as a family that was good at sports when I was young, and now you need to do that too, because that's how I think about myself and our family, with whatever that is. And sports is such a tricky thing because, like, I'm a embarrassingly huge fan of Arsenal, which is a soccer team in London. And when they lose, it really bothers me. And that's something the Lord is working out in my heart, and it embarrasses me to just incredible amounts that a team full of 11 guys that don't even know I'm alive can affect my mood as much as they do. But sports is this wonderful way to enjoy these wonderful things, right? I mean, in some ways it's great that it kind of distracts us from the pain of life. But I think the problem when you add that to kids sports is you get this really tricky cocktail of, like, yes, when I see my son put a through ball to a striker who knocks it in, I mean, just the joy is immense, but it's a little out of proportion too, and then it's like, I've got to learn that. And so as y'all have navigated that, again, as dads, but I think as hosts on this podcast, can you speak to that weird conundrum of why we as parents and how we navigate that better on the sidelines, not having these expectations, or sort of like, hey, if he doesn't have a good game, that speaks to me. That's about me. And how, like, I can't, catch up with my buddy tonight and be like, oh, he, game-winning run, or, he had the goal that won it, or he saved the goal, or whatever. And now I'm carrying around this shame or anger. And what can we do as parents to how do we navigate that?
Oh man, it's the thing that struck me when I left the business world and got into education is that how personal it is, because you're dealing with people's kids. And I think that's why we've had such great engagement on our podcast, is because, no matter what's going on in your life professionally, you could have all these accolades. Your kid can it's a gut punch if your kid is struggling. And so I think you talk about, like, why are we like this? I mean, it's a combination of a lot of things. I'm sure it's you living vicariously through your kid. I mean, everybody loves, people to come up to them and say, hey, man, your kid's a really good soccer player. I love it. Now, are we as happy when someone comes up to you and says, hey, your kid's a great teammate? Your kid has a great, it's like, is that now, as you get older, that is a big compliment, but when they're 10 years old and, they're not very good and you get that pat on the shoulder, oh, but he's a really good teammate or whatever. But, it's a combination. Like Britt, I have 4 girls, 2 boys. My girls had no interest whatsoever in sports. My first 2 girls, they're all theater kids. And I was the most laid back dad in the world. I was just like, oh, it's awesome. All good. I'll be a girl dad. There's no stress in my life at all. And then I had the 2 boys come around, and when they got interested in sports, it was like, okay, it's on now. Hey, great. I'm going to relive being a coach that I couldn't be. I'm going to be the athlete that I couldn't be. It's on, as long as they gave me that little bit of hint, they're like, oh yeah, I really want to pursue this. And then it was like, I was an idiot, for about, 15 years. And so, not real. I mean, and it is just, I don't know. The reason behind it is a lot of reasons, and everybody has their own past that they're dealing with. And that comes into play, I'm sure. And we haven't gone to counseling yet, but that's just kind of what I'm guessing is kind of the reason behind it.
The challenging thing is, and I think, it's cliche to say, it's grown-ups living vicariously through their kids, and there are some of that out there, but it's just, number one is fun. We all just love it, and it's fun watching your kids. If you're a sports fan at all, it's just fun. And so when they do great, it's really fun.
It's really fun
on so many levels. And, and when they struggle, you hurt for them because you love them. And it hurts you too, is the more the more into it you get, meaning the more time, the more money, the more energy, the more everything you commit to it, it feels like, oh no, we're doing
Yeah.
all this and we're not getting results, like it's your job or something. So I just
Britt and I have both been through moments that our kids, our boys would come to us and say they think they're done with the journey. And like Britt and I are like, but we put so much work into this. We're not done yet. And it's like, wait a minute, it's you, not us. But like that was both of us. And we laugh about it, but it was a real, just heart-wrenching moment to go, wait a minute. We've had the same dream, Pat. And we put so much time and money and all the experiences we thought it was going to end in this glorious moment, and now you're saying you want out. That's not, you can't do that. You can't leave me this.
One of the most poignant moments I've had as a dad, and I mean the profundity of my son in this moment, it was such a gift to me. So my son had tried out for his middle school soccer team, and again, he grew up playing. He's a good player. He's not by far the best on the teams, but he's super solid and usually is in the starting 11. And he didn't make, so he had two friends that are the same age who are great players, and they made the 8th grade team, and he was in 7th grade last year, and so he made the 7th grade team. And I remember feeling this, I mean, I was so surprised at all the things I was feeling. Because again, I was like, oh, I've got this, and I'm therapeuticized, and I've got the Holy Spirit, and I'm gonna, and when we got the list, like, I was just so angry. You just name something, I was angry at it. So I talked to my wife about it, and so I got I'd heard it, but then I got he had just finished his club team game. We got in the car, and I had the list, and I was like, you know what? If I have any wisdom, it's don't color this. Just give it to him. Say, hey, bud, here's the team, and I was kind of like, I don't know how this is going to go, but knowing him, he's not. I knew he'd probably be like, okay, cool, this is what it is. But it was so profound because I was like just squashing all these emotions, trying to give him space to feel however he feels. And he's like, oh, okay, cool, Dad. And I was like, well, how do you feel, bud? And he's like, I mean, I think it's probably pretty fair. And Dad, I'll tell you this. I'd rather be on a team where I can give leadership and start than to be on a team where I'm on the bench and I'm only playing a little bit and probably can't really help lead the team. And I'm telling you, I just, like, a tear just dripped. And I was like, thank you, Lord, for these children that can, in the middle of all of my, how could he not make, should I call the coach? And I'm like, what is going on in me? And for Ben to be like, no, this, and he literally said, I think even if they asked me to move up, I probably won't. And I was like, wow. And we moved. And so I think in those moments, just by the grace of God, to go, man, this is so much more about me than it is about him, and that's such a struggle,
Yeah. The Lord definitely uses sports in our lives, our kids' sports in our lives. And my prayer life, I mean, I was going to say, most parents, and I was in a tennis community, and so we all see, same thing in every community, but you see the same people at the same tournaments all the time. And I would venture to say that most people thought there's a calm dad. He's he's got a good perspective. If they could have seen what was going on inside me and the churn and the my prayer life, before every tournament, please help me.
Just why is that guy in his car crying? And it's like, oh, just just walk by. Give him time.
It's just tough. I mean, it just is. And that reveals a lot of stuff about us and where our priorities are.
Yeah.
And so on and so forth. And you mentioned your wife. I mean, thank God for my wife, but I didn't always like it because she was always the one who was, and she's not super into sports. And so she was always the one like, hey, buddy, you need to get it together. You're being way too hard. You're talking about this all the time with the kids.
Yeah.
And so it was a good chat.
I want to ask like a very sort of like back up 10,000 feet, ask a very simplified question that I kind of feel like I almost skip over even asking it. I almost just answer it and assume that youth sports has changed, I have two daughters, 12 and 10, and they're definitely theater girls, but they're both big soccer players as well. So we're in this world. My youngest plays on a travel team now. But when I think back on my own experience growing up, and I was a swimmer, I swam year round. I'm like, if I look at the schedule that I had growing up, at least on the calendar, it doesn't seem like things have notched up. It's, and maybe I had a unique experience. I don't know. I didn't go on to like swim in college or anything like that. So to me, I felt like I had a pretty just, mainstream sports upbringing. But what are the differences that you guys have noticed between, 2025 and maybe back, 25 years ago, or when you guys were growing up? Have things actually changed in that they've notched up in intensity and expectation and pressure, et cetera, et cetera?
100%.
You think so? And what are the ways that they're different?
Well, I'll throw a few in, Brad. You can throw a few in as well. Many of our guests are either pro athletes or have recently retired pro athletes, like Jeff, who's 41
So,
years
John,
old.
we will not be getting that invite. I want to get that clear. Go ahead, Britt. That's your time.
I do have some videos of us on the tennis court that I want to send in.
Some swimming videos. Hey, we've had some swimmers. We've had 3 or 4 swimmers. On our show. Number one, many of those athletes talk about, when baseball season was over, I moved to football, and when football was over, I moved to this, and then I went to, we always played whatever sport was in season, and we get, we post a lot of these things because we talk about specialization a lot.
Yeah,
because specialization is probably the biggest difference maker versus where we were 20 years ago. And 20 years ago, there was specialization, if you were a gymnast, and there was specialization at early ages in some individual sports, but not so much in mainstream sports. And today, specialization is, 8 years old. You need to specialize in baseball, and also you need to play year round. You need to play 12 months a year. And that just wasn't the case, certainly when Brad and I were growing up, which is, a lot way before when you guys were. But even probably when you were growing up, that really wasn't the pressure to do that was not there. And high school coaches were not putting in the club environment has exploded, and there were some, but not like it is today. Travel ball, not anything close to what it is today. And it's easy to say it's just a money grab by everybody, and it is big business.
Well, that's my question is, what started the change? Is it that there were all these kind of specialized club leagues that started up who, they only function if they've got dollars coming in? Or what was the sort of like impetus for this change?
Brad, you want to take that?
Well, I think the main difference that I see, and I think, it's supply and demand. I think what's changed, and I'm sure it's a generational thing from, the greatest generation to, the next generation after that. But I think back in the day when you played rec sports or you played sports as a kid, it was just really you were playing. You were still playing. Yeah. I mean, there were some kids that were better than others. The athletes that were the better athletes just kind of, always were the better athletes. The teams didn't change a whole lot. And then you got to high school and some kids dropped out and the better athletes kept getting better. It seems somewhere along the way there was an agenda that became part of this experience. And I'm not sure if it's I think it was probably driven by parents. Which generation it was, I'm not sure. But now it seems like when your kid starts playing sports, it's got to be part of a bigger plan and a goal.
Now you're training.
yeah, you're training, you're watching your kid, which team are they on, which level are they playing at, how did they do in that game, are they going to lose their spot on this travel team, are they going to make the higher level travel team next year, because what is the ultimate goal? It could be just to make your high school team. In some areas it's really competitive to make your high school team. In other areas it's like, I want my kids, we got to play college, we got to get a scholarship. And so every step along the way, starting at crazy young ages, in certain sports like swimming and gymnastics is even younger, everything that kid is doing is part of this plan to get to the ultimate goal. I think back in the day, it was just, you really were playing, Yeah, there may have been some internal stress that you put on yourself as a kid, or just how you're wired, but the institution was not adding to that stress. And I think the money came along because I think at a certain point, certain parents felt like their kid was not good, getting enough competition at the rec level, and they wanted to go look for better competition. And it used to be that would happen in All-Stars, or that would happen in swimming. You'd go to maybe a state championship and kind of see where you were. And it just, now it's just happening at every level. And so I think that was just a supply and demand situation where club sports and travel sports and all these organizations were, reaction to parents wanting that thing that would help their kids achieve that goal.
Yeah.
And whose goal it was. Yeah. And specialization was a big part of that. But I mean, if you were Jeff Francoeur, you could be a D1 athlete and still play every sport. It's tougher if your kid's not in that top 5% and, wants to make their high school team and is just on the borderline. I don't, we talk about this all the time. At a certain point, they probably need to specialize to make that team if they're not just a superstar. Now, I wouldn't do it till high school, or right before high school. But
you guys have spoken to also how troubling it is that, and I thought this was really articulate. In fact, Brad, I think you said this in a clip I watched where you're saying,
tell Brad how articulate.
Sorry, not
Brad.
Jeff said this. Jeff actually. Now
it was articulate.
Jeff said
this. It was articulate. I said it. I'm pretty sure.
Jeff said this in Spanish, which was doubly impressive because it was wise and bilingual. But
he didn't speak enough English.
French maybe. But that you said, how troubling it is when youth sports really tends to mirror collegiate and professional. And I thought that was really profound because that to exactly what you guys are speaking of right now. It's just these are kids that are trying to play. I think the things that are so tricky about it that I've noticed, and I think every major market in America probably has this tension, is the growing separation between rec and club. And so I think for parents who have kids that, that's an easy choice when your kid just really wants to go have fun and they have no sports aspirations at all, because it's like, put them in rec and let them have a great time, and it's awesome. They practice once a week, they can go run around, be with some of their friends. But if you have a kid who really wants to specialize and really have a gift for that, well then you can do. The problem I think with most, and this is probably 90% of America, because like John and I were talking about, what percentage of kids actually become athletes has got to be in the single percentages, So really that means that 90% of America lives in the middle, which is like, no matter their kids' ability, they're probably not going to play collegiate or especially pro, but they're better and they're more maybe aggressive than rec. And so then you're like, well, gosh, the jump over is immense, because it's going from one practice a week with the team you're kind of like, didn't really do, to like, thousands of dollars a year to play, 2 to 3 practices a week. Every weekend you have a game. And so that was something that my wife and I have walked through with our boys. Is kind of like, look, like, I help teach a Sunday school. Like I kind of can't miss, which is great for me because it keeps me buckled in whether I like it or not. And so, we have a great, we're so thankful this year, but what we've had to do is just go to coaches and say, hey, look, you tell us how you want to do this, but this is where we are. Ben is a great player. He made your team. We're excited, but like, this is how, and if that means we need to do something else, we will do something else. And by God's infinite grace this season, the team he's on, the coach was like, no, thank you for telling us. We don't have a problem with that. Just let us know, are you cool with this pattern of Wednesday nights? Because Ben has really gravitated toward our church. Thank God that he loves youth groups. That's the other dilemma we have is like, he's really starting to go like, hey, church is fun. And we're like, oh my gosh, don't, like we
Don't lose that.
Don't lose that. But again, just we're so thankful that the coach was like, no, thank you for telling us. And hey, let's just, and we're going to miss every other Wednesday we're trying. And we were just so thankful that was, but that's not every team. And, some are like, hey man, like if you're going to do this. And so I think
do you think somewhere there's a sports podcast where they're talking about how the church is getting too intense?
Or the church is getting in the way of sports.
Too many church services.
Wednesday night.
There's a lot of church podcasts out there. There may be one out we don't know about.
But to y'all's point, I just think I just really grieve for the season that we're in. Not just that it looks so much like college sports, but that kids don't. There's just really not much of a choice anymore.
There's no either you're middle ground.
Yeah, there's no middle ground.
Do you think that there is a growing market there that, like, a couple years in the future,
yes,
with supply and demand, there will be some sort of, middle ground for that middle 90% that'll come out that's some kind of hybrid of intensity?
I mean, there's a lot of discussion right now in youth sports world about the issues, and one of the biggest issues is losing the fun, and rec sports is a big piece of that. We just had a guy on our show who is an executive at ESPN, and they have a new initiative called Take Back Sports, which is a youth sports initiative.
Jeez.
Same guy heading that up, heads up the V Foundation and all they're doing there. And Steph Curry's organization is involved in this with them and others. And rec sport, the resurgence of rec sports is a goal. Now, it's not an easy goal. You don't just go, boom, let's start back rec sports.
Right.
Because in fairness, I mean, rec sports didn't get turned off overnight. And I know there's still rec sports in different areas, but as more and more kids started gravitating to club and to travel, then more and more kids leave rec sports because it's like, well, there's not good competition there. I mean, there's only 2 kids on the baseball team who can catch the baseball, so it's holding my kid back from being able to, all those types of things. So rebuilding that is not an easy task.
Yeah.
But we also have 70% of kids who play youth sports quit by the age of 13.
This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Healthcare professionals can lead their careers with LinkedIn. Discover jobs by specialty, preferred shifts, and even desired salary. From mental health therapists to radiology technicians, it's now faster and easier for healthcare professionals to find the right fit. Learn more at linkedin.com/healthcare. Side effects may include faster job placement, improved work-life balance, and increased career satisfaction.
The Hilton sale is on. For 10 days only, you can save up to 20% on stays this fall and beyond. Don't wait. The sale ends September 29th. Book your stay and save at Hilton.com. Terms apply. Hilton, for the stay.
Britt, I'm so glad you brought this up. This because it dovetails so well with what you're saying, and that's another thing I wanted to ask you guys about is, to your point, the stats for this are crazy. I mean, you guys would know it more intimately than we do, but we've had athletes on and they've talked about this where kids are burning out at like 15, 14, 13, which is crazy to think about that at that age, or you see your kid, get all the way to where they get the scholarship and they're like, yeah, I don't want to do this. And you're like, we spent all this time investing for you to do this. And so can y'all speak to, because I know this is something you guys really have as a platform on the show, to just mental health with kids. Like, what is this culture, this youth, the intensity of youth sports? And I think especially knowing so many parents listen to this podcast, like, what is the word you can give those parents as they're navigating this around mental health and what y'all are seeing in that culture now?
I think there's some kids, like all of us, some of us are just born wired to have, some anxiety or have some stress. I mean, some of it's just, you're in your God-given DNA, but I would tell parents, do not add to that. I think the key word, the cheat code, I think for a parent and hopefully for a kid is awareness. If God can place and your relationship and awareness of where this journey really is going to kind of end, the earlier the better, then you can kind of reverse engineer it and kind of go, okay, like you talked about your daughters play soccer. If they say, look, we love soccer. We like to play in high school, but really, I don't think I'm going to play in college. I love theater. I think I want to major in this. Then you can kind of look at your journey with a perspective. What I see in the high school space is typically the junior year, even the driven athletes, their junior year, most of the time is when they make a decision. Like they kind of realize they love sports so much that they want to play in college, or they want the freedom that they would get for not being a college athlete. And a lot of times you're like, if you could have come to that decision or helped them come to that decision earlier, or listen to them, maybe, and parents don't listen to them, that they really came to that decision, but they were afraid to tell you that they came to that decision. Right. Then I think your journey can be so much healthier. And I mean, there's standards to play for your high school team. There's standards to get a college scholarship. It's 1% now. I think, Brett, you can correct me, but I mean, I think it's 1% are getting some sort of college scholarship. And so
1% of high school athletes are getting an athletic scholarship.
I mean, Brett, you want to?
Yeah, I mean, the scholarship scenarios is changing. But I'll say this: it's like there's like a little less than 7% of high school players play in college. Now, obviously, many of those don't get scholarships.
That's D3.
That's JUCO, D3, NAIA, everywhere. It's like 1% play D1, and that's shrinking. But and way less than 1% ever play pro or earn a penny from sports. So I do think, to Brad's point, if you're a parent and you think that your kid and they're 10 years old and you think that they could be a pro, you're probably wrong. Even at 10 years old, you're probably wrong. The statistics say you're wrong. And
what's funny is I was thinking about this when we were talking about the tough sell of like bringing a rec league back mainstream. Is like, I mean, when I was 10 years old, I was destined for the NBA. I mean, 99% of 10-year-old boys in Indiana are like, no. Well, I'll be on the Pacers. It'll take some time, but I'll get there.
Yeah. I mean, you may be the sixth man.
I'll ride the bench for a little bit.
And we don't want to squat. Like I love when your kids dream. Don't ever tell them. I would never tell them, hey, only 1% make it. I would love them to have big dreams. Have big dreams, but as a parent them with a reality that hey, dude, your dad's 5'10" and he's got a 10-inch vertical jump. You're probably not going to be in the NBA.
Why did you look at me when you said that?
I was talking about Britt, not me.
Or when you could talk to my daughters and be like, sweetie, your dad would love to be 5'10".
But I mean, I've shrunken with age, so I'm probably more like 5'9" now. But no, but it's going back to the mental health question. It's a great question, and it's heartbreaking, though. I think it's, you like Britt talked about, you want to pray for that relationship. And if you have that relationship, your kids are going to come to you when they struggle.
That's great.
And I'm very, very blessed that all my kids are great communicators. And I think my wife and I created a safe space to where they can come and say, hey, I'm really, really struggling with this, whether it's in whatever space that's in. But where it gets heartbreaking is if that parent doesn't allow that space to exist. And that parent is so myopic about this journey and this goal and whatever the reasons are. And then that kid is struggling in that mental health space that because their parents not helping that situation.
Yeah, there's a lot of times I feel like it's such an interesting thing to navigate, because I think everybody in the world, in this sports world, especially in America, would understand the idea of like, and man, it's just such a part of our American culture. It's like, when you've said you're going to do it, we're going to do it. If you're going to be on the team, you finish the season. It doesn't matter if you lose every game. And some part of that is really beautiful. Like, there's a commitment thing you're showing your kid. But I think we've just really worn that trope out, where it's like, if your kid is coming to you and like, hey, I'm failing in school because I can't get my homework done. I'm stressed out of my mind, and I don't think I'm enjoying this. Well, no, son. It's like, hey, it might be worth taking a TO and just going, bud, maybe we just need to to take a break this year from the rest of baseball, and let's get school back on track and whatever. But I think, and I mean, I hate to say this, I would say it's just as bad in Christendom, because then it's like, you're not using your talents the way, or this is the word, and our word is our bond, and God tells us that when we say yes, it has to be yes. But I'm like, I don't know that we're using these things in the right context. And so to your point, Brad, and I love this, again, I think this is such a powerful part of y'all's messaging is, you want to be growing closer to your kid. You'll be listening to your kid. It's about the relationship with your kid. It's not about, is my kid finishing the season out? Is he giving everything he can to the team? Sure, that's a part of it. But I think like our part as parents, as you guys are enunciating so well, is like, man, if I'm picking up cues, our priority is our kid's health and mental health and spiritual health. And if he's or she is getting fried, well, then it may be good to say, hey, I'll talk to the coach. It may be a hard conversation, but I think this is better for you. And I think there's something about that's in the water of not just being American, but I think even in Christendom in America, which is like this thing of like, when we've said yes, we say yes. And I'm like, guys, I don't know if Jesus is sitting in the room, he's going, yeah, Brad, you tell her. She said she was going to do this, and it doesn't matter that she's crying, like just tell her.
Yeah.
And each of these things, again, as you guys said so well, is something you have to deal with real time to your specific situation where the Spirit's leading. But I do think, and it speaks to, and you guys have said this so well, again, I'm so appreciative for how y'all think about these things, but so much of it is the end goal. And it's like, what are we trying to do? Are we trying to play? Because I think what happens, and I'm guilty as too, is you just never stop to think about it. You're just kind of going and you're making all these decisions without a real thought of like, hold on, hey, bud, what is it you want to do? Well, I don't even know. Mm-hmm. Oh, well, then we should probably talk about that. Or if he's like, hey, I really want to make the high school team. It's like, great. Okay, we know that trajectory. Let's do the best we can to get you there in a healthy and happy way, and we're all involved. But if you aren't, I know for me, you just kind of, you're doing it because you do it and your friends are doing it and the kids are, they were on the team, we're going to do it again this year. It's like, well, hold on. We should probably powwow on what we're trying to achieve here. Because I think the other thing that's so funny about this other thing is I have a really dear friend of mine who played collegiate football, and he said something that I thought was so profound. We were in a Bible study together, and he said, the craziest thing about youth sports is you are playing something until you're not, and then you're not anymore, and it's gone. There's no letters that come in the mail. There's no commendations. And he's like, after I decided I didn't want to play football anymore in college, I woke up the next day and it was done. Like, it's just done. It is down the river. And he's like, did I have lessons? Absolutely. And friendships? Absolutely. But it's done. You don't really have something you're sort of carrying, you aren't, then you go work at Allstate. It's like, there's not, and so I think the thing that parents have to remember too is like, this thing does have an ending. And to your point, for the 99% of us, it really has an ending. And so I think there is some wisdom, again, as you guys said, to have an eye on where are we going with this? Like, what's our plan? Because at some point this is going to end, and we want our kid to have more than just the money and stuff we spent on it, but to have an agreement on what we're trying to do, and then we can celebrate the journey and where it ended,
I mean, that's such a huge point, because that really gets to the crux of what happens in many of our families is for our kids is that their identity becomes an athlete, and everything is dominated by sports, and then it ends.
Yeah,
and so as a parent, you have to step back and say, what's our overarching parenting goal for our kids, and sports should fall up under that and should support that. It should not be that. And so I think, we have 5 pillars of a pure athlete, and the first one is vision, and it is the whole idea about what's the why, and and what's the destination you're trying to get toward, and how do you goal set to achieve that. And the goal may just be having fun.
That's great.
Getting back to mental health, I mean, sports should be a respite to everything else in life. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't work hard, and that doesn't mean you don't deal with adversity in sports and run the second you see adversity and all those types of things. No, it's a great teacher in a lot of those kinds of things. But at the end of the day, if sports is just one more burden that you're laying on the back of your kids, and stresses them out, and they're not performing the way they want to, and they're disappointing their parents, and they're you need to take a step back. That's not healthy. And you don't want to wait until it's too late and your kid's really, really struggling, and needs help. And that happens all the time.
And just to clarify something, that just so you guys know that, I mean, we love, I mean, I think kids are wired, even girls, just as much as are wired to want to win. They're wired to want to compete. They're wired to want to play rough. And it's when the parents kind of get in the way that we screw things up, we're not trying to say like your kid should not go out there and try to win, or give 110% or work hard. It's just, I think when it becomes more institutionalized, whatever age that is, and maybe high school is that age it should be, but we kind of get in it. Oh well, okay, you think you want to do this? Okay, let me get involved and let's organize this and this and this. And a lot of times, man, the concept, we had an expert on talking about free play. And just letting these kids, they're wired to want to go out there and compete. You watch at recess, watch them on the playground. I mean, they'll organize themselves, and they'll fight to the death to win a touch football game, on the playground or kickball, whatever you want to say. That's God's wired them that way. So we're not trying to change that. We're just trying to let that phase in life last as long as possible. And like Britt said, I mean, the goal is be praying for what God's plan is for your life. And if it's for your plan to be a great athlete and use that as a, platform and testimony, awesome. But, let's see what happens, because it's a lot of things change after puberty too.
Yeah, that's a great one.
A lot of it's so much in just how he wired you, and not just athletically. Britt jokes about this all the time. We both read Tim Tebow's book, and we're looking at our kids like, why aren't you out there doing 1,000 push-ups every day? This should motivate you. It motivated me. I got motivated reading this book. And not that I did 1,000 push-ups after reading it, but I got motivated for my kid to do 1,000 push-ups. And God wired Tim Tebow that way. Yeah, come on, you look at him, and it wasn't even like that he was a physical freak. He's just wired. He's obsessed with working out, and you can't make your kid become that. They have to make that decision for themselves.
Well, something, we had David Pollock on, and he did he harp on that,
awesome.
Which was amazing. Well, and two things to your point, Brad. It's like he said, one, there's going to be physical things that nobody controls. He's like, I grew over one summer, and I went from basically nobody cared to the coach was like, hey, well, son, can I talk to you in my office? And he's like, and then it really sparked this thing in me, and then I went on to play at the professional level. But I think the other thing that we talked about with him that I think is such an important thing, especially for the church, is that I do this in every aspect of my life, but I see it here too, is we just forget that God's going to accomplish his will. And I think and I think as a parent, it's such a beautiful place we come from, this feeling, but it's also really detrimental, is that it's up to us. For my kid, for my girl to get that volleyball scholarship, God has put it on me. And I'm like, no, that's woo-woo. And something that so many athletes that we have had on this pod, and it makes me so happy when they say this, is they're like, hey, if you're good and it's what's supposed to happen, it's going to happen. You can, real talent tends to shine through. Those people land where they're supposed to be. And so this idea that if I don't have them, and if they don't do and I got to get them in this kind of, and I'm like, guys, if we forgot that, God does crazy things. Like he can, if he wants your kid to play collegiate, they'll play collegiate. If he wants them to play professional, they will play professional. Mm-hmm. God has a way. And so I think just to encourage parents, it lifts that thing off of us to be like, well, it's like you're saying, Brad, like, why aren't you out doing 1,000? You got to get out and get reps. Cause the kid, he's down there getting, it's like, hey, your kid may grow 1.5 feet over the summer, and all of a sudden, all that time that he was just having fun out in the backyard, now he's like, oh, it looks like I want to play football. And it wasn't because of reps or your great mentoring of your child,
When David was on our podcast, and my son was a junior, and I was really struggling with some things as a parent and his journey, and he said, and it literally was God speaking to my heart. He said, it's their journey. It's their journey, not your journey. And it was like an epiphany to me of like, you know what? He's exactly right. And I love my kid, and I'm going to support him and encourage him. But it's really his journey to take it from here, and whatever. And I'm going to love him no matter where that journey ends, because he's a great kid. But Pollock was one of the most impactful. We've had so many great guest on. But where I was in my point as a parent, that really was like a lightning bolt to my heart of just like, okay, that's exactly right. And I was able to exhale really as a parent. So that's what's been great about our podcast is that, we were going through, Britt and I were going through a lot of this still, and now we're past it. But man, he was great.
Yeah.
Well, and going back to one thing you said in relating it to Pollock saying it's their journey, the sports journey ends. It ends for everybody, for a very small amount of people. It doesn't end until they're 30 something years old and they've made a bunch of money. But for a lot of people, it ends at 12 years old. For others, it ends at, 17 or 18 years old. But it does end. And as parents, if we're putting all our effort into the first 13 years of their life, as opposed to thinking about the entirety of our child's life, and we need to be shepherding their hearts and shepherding their minds towards being the best people and humans, and and pursuing their faith and all those types of things. And again, sports has a role and plays a part in all that, but it is not the end all be all. And that we so often get lost into, all of us, when they're young.
Yeah.
That's kind of why, and Britt came up with the name, but that's kind of what Pure Athlete, we wanted role models for our kids. And so we're looking for those role models too. Like, that person that, it's not their identity, but they've taken maybe some God-given talents and abilities and glorified Him by using it as a platform, or are propelling them into something else in life, or overcoming, tremendous obstacles in life. And that's kind of what Pure Athlete stands for in terms of us looking for these stories, of people that can inspire our kids and they can look up to and say, wow, that's a journey that I would like to pursue, as opposed to a lot of the role models that are being thrown at our kids. You don't want them to pursue those those journeys that those people are on.
Well, it's like anything, isn't it? I mean, in all of our professions, in your life, it's a journey with the Lord, right? It's not my journey. It's me and God, doing this together. And I think that the earlier that we can really help our kids understand that God, it's so beautiful. I love you said that with my kids, hey guys, this is you. I'm here to be a part of it and to help sort of 30,000 foot view. But where do you feel like this is going? How can I help you with that, as opposed to pushing Jesus out of the car and me grabbing the steering wheel with my kid and going, hey, this is my vision for your life, whether you like it or not. It's such a beautiful thing. Guys, thank y'all so much for your time. It's so funny because I was going to say, do you have any last thoughts? But you guys just nailed it. And I especially appreciate y'all articulating what y'all are working on, what y'all are doing, because I think it is a very important thing. I really do feel like, again, my hot take is I think this is something as we move forward, and especially in Christendom, and that isn't everybody, but it's going to continue. It's going to continue to matter and be something that we have to navigate, I think, more than probably a lot of us even really clock. And so I love that you guys are doing the work you're doing. I think it's really important, and I think it's wonderful y'all have created a venue for these conversations to happen, because I think they're really necessary and it's really helpful. So appreciate y'all's time and wisdom and what you guys are doing.
Well, thank you. And I'll just say right back at you. You guys are doing a great job. And, talking to younger dads than we are. But as you're in the mix of it and talking about all types of subjects that are real life. And so thank you for that. Thanks for having us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah. It's been a blast. You guys have a great ministry. We appreciate what you do.
Thanks, guys. Thanks so much.
That